We have made it to the month of June. Well, technically we haven't made it yet, but we're about to get into June. Here in Season 3 of the Chicago White Sox franchise, here on MLB the Show 25. And we're looking to get things back going after a rough month of May, especially the end. We are 1-9 in our last 10. We have only won 2 of our last 13 games. And for a team who got off to a really promising start, we were over 500 through April. Things have gone downhill fast. We're also going to talk some scouting today. We'll go over some of the notable prospects in this year's draft, and keep in mind we do have the second overall pick in the first round. So despite our struggles, we're still pretty high in terms of the major offensive stats. 6th in runs, 6th in batting average, 7th in walks, 3rd in on-base percentage. The guys are getting aboard. 12th in slugging, which is lower than it's been, but still above average. And that's with Kyle Teal missing the entire month of May. And of course, he was playing some outstanding baseball before he got injured. He was the leader for the AL MVP. And of course, he had the knee injury. We're hoping we're going to get him back probably around the end of the month. Luis Angel Acuna has been dinged up, and he'll still probably be shelved for another 2 to 3 weeks. So that's another guy who's been out of the lineup. The injuries have certainly hurt us, but that's also no excuse. We've got to be better. We are going to get some reinforcements, though. Corey Julks will be back in around a week and a half. And then Cody Hosey returns from his torn ACL. I know it says another 3 to 4 months, but I had to edit the injury in since he got hurt last June. So he's been out for around a year now. And he will be returning to kick off the month, which is pretty exciting because this team obviously needs a spark. Maybe he can be the guy who gives it to us. Now, of course, we're still having some guys playing really well offensively. Douglas Cato has a chance to be an all-star. Luis Robert has been really good. Akil Baddoo has not really slowed down, despite the wheel kind of hurting him a little bit going into the month of May. He's hitting .346, which is 3rd in the AL, only behind Jose Ramirez and Alex Bregman, and those two guys are just on another planet. I don't even really think it's fair to throw anybody in the conversation with the two of them. Akil Baddoo is top 5 in the AL in WAR, so he's been all around very productive, having a career year. Another guy who, of course, has a chance to make the All-Star team. And what I find most interesting with his season is that his approach at the plate has not changed at all. His walk rate and his strikeout rate are both the exact same as last year. What are the odds? So his skills at the plate have not changed at all. He's just hitting the ball better, plain and simple. Of course, it's been very up and down for many of the youngsters on the team. Brian Ramos has been disappointing. It's been a roller coaster for Edgar Quero. Colson Montgomery, we've gotten more good play out of him. I wish he was a little more consistent, but for the first time in his big league career, he's been quite good. 278 average, OPS in the 800s. It's been up and down for him on a game-by-game basis, but considering where we've been over the past couple of seasons for him, it's hard to complain with this result, even though he has not been all that good over the last 10 or so games. Of course, we called up Oswaldo Escobedo in the last episode as well, our number 1 draft pick, who's been up and down through his first month. Drew Thorpe has been injured as well, headlining the pitching staff, and of course, we really only had 2 consistent starters since last year, him and Hagen Smith. And Smith's been really good again, but it's been up and down for everybody else. German Marquez has not been consistent at all. He's had some really good starts, but he's also had some really bad ones. I was hoping when we signed him, he would give us some more stability, and that has not been the case. As for Noah Schultz, he started the year off really poorly. I was worried I was going to have to send him down, but he's really picked it up since then. He's had some good games. Granted, some of these earned run totals are a little misleading. There was one game against Toronto where he allowed 6, but only 1 earned. Jonathan Cannon is back with the big league club, and he has been Jonathan Cannon. He can give you 8 shutout innings one game, and then over his next 2, he's allowed like 10 runs in 4 innings. You really don't know what you're going to get out of him. The bullpen, of course, has been a lot better than last year, but that doesn't really say much. Our bullpen still is not the best, but it's improved. Of course, we got to look at some of our notable prospects in the last episode. Guys like Martin Bird, our most recent first-round pick, and Arsene De La Fontaine, our recent international free agent signing. So let's go back to Cody Hosey real quick. Now that we're going to bring him back off of the injured list and onto the big league roster for the first time since last June. His skill set is nearly identical to that of Oswaldo Escobedo. Both guys hit for a pretty high average. They're good contact hitters, but they don't give us a lot otherwise. Between Oswaldo and Cody Hosey, though, I think Hosey's pretty clearly the better player. Oswaldo in his first month of the year has hit .250, which isn't bad, but he's given us no power, he's not drawing walks, and his defense has been quite poor. So I just don't really think it makes sense to have him and Cody Hosey on the roster right now, and Hosey's better. So we're going to send Waldo down to AAA, hoping he can be a little more consistent. I wanted to send down Braden Montgomery as well because he's been kind of disappointing so far this year. Although, to be fair to him, I feel like his 9-game stretch at the end of last year was a little misleading. The plan for him was always to make his debut at the end of this year. That was accelerated, and that gave us a false sense of what he could be. We're going to keep him up in the big leagues for a little bit longer, probably waiting until Corey Julks comes back because the alternatives in AAA are not much better. So we'll give Braden Montgomery another week or two of at-bats and see where we are at that point. So Oswaldo Escobedo and Braden Montgomery have both not been great for us, but our other rookie, Edgar Quero, I think has shown more positives. There have been some good and some bad with Edgar Quero, but I really feel like he's turning a corner. Over his last 10, he's hitting .344 with an OPS nearing 900. He's hitting for good power, and yeah, the contact and the batting average is not where you want it to be, but his OBP is above 300, his slugging is above 400, and if you compare that to Kyle Teel, that's pretty similar to the offensive production we got from him in his first 2 years. Teel has always been a better contact hitter and a better defender than Quero, but Quero hits for way more power, and he draws more walks as well, so it's kind of a fair trade-off. Quero's WAR is above 1, and compared to the other catchers in the AL, there are not many guys who have been that much better than him. He has played more games than any catcher, so we've thrown him into the deep end, giving him major responsibility. He's second in at-bats, he's 5th in home runs amongst all catchers. He's tied for, I think, 10th in WAR, along with Kyle Teel. He's currently in second for the AL Rookie of the Year, only behind Ricky Carlton, another catcher who the Tigers drafted in the second round last year. Based on his numbers, he probably should be the runaway favorite. Granted, his defense is quite a bit worse than Quero, but when the offensive numbers are that far apart, I get it. What I do find interesting, though, is that Quero is in first place for the AL Silver Slugger at catcher, and he's in 4th in terms of all-star voting, and he's not too far behind the guys in the top 3. So an all-star nod for Edgar Quero is not out of the realm of possibility. This tells me a couple things. For one, if Kyle Teel was healthy, he would probably be running away with the all-star starter spot at catcher. But also that Edgar Quero's numbers are pretty solid, especially for a rookie, and I think he's going to continue to get better, given that he's improved throughout the year. So let's talk about our wheel spins now. Last episode we did the NL East, which has been a very interesting division this year with the improvements made by the Marlins, who are the second wild card and only 2.5 games out of first. A couple of our notable spins included Bailey Ober landing on elbow soreness. He needed to throw less innings in May than April if he wants to avoid the wheel of Tommy John. And believe it or not, he did. Even though he pitched better and more innings per game, he's only pitched in 4 games. So Bailey Ober gets lucky and he will avoid the Tommy John wheel. Randy Arozarena landed on boosted. He hit for really good contact here in May, but he didn't hit for good power. So I'm going to let him keep some of his contact boosts, but he's not going to get his power boost because he hit like 1 home run, I think. As for us, of course, for the month of May, we went with Akil Baddoo. He's going to get his ratings back. Overall, I feel impressed with how Akil Baddoo played. He hit for good contact, even though his contact ratings were in the 40s. For June, I decided to pick Brian Ramos because he's been kind of disappointing this year. I think his approach at the plate is the best it's ever been of his career. Career high in walk rate, career low in strikeout rate, but he's just not hitting the ball well. He's only hitting .237, and the power, which is supposed to be the strength of this game, has been non-existent. He has 1 home run in the last month and a half. So we're going to spin the wheel for Ramos, hope that this can light a fire under him and help him look more like he did over the first 2 seasons. Cuddle me! Perform specific demands or trade the player away. So in the case of Brian Ramos, we have to play him at his regular position, third base, and we have to keep him in the top 4 spots of the batting order for the rest of the year. Now, there might be some simulated games where they put him at DH or at first base or lower in the order. That's fine. There's nothing we can really do about that. But we have to keep him in the lineup at third base and between 1 through 4. I don't really think it makes a ton of sense to trade him right now. I know he's been kind of bad this year, but he's only 24 years old. He's still a piece of this team's future. So we're just going to have to deal with this. We're going to have to deal with him being a prima donna and try to work things out. It is a major inconvenience, though, for Cody Hosey, who's just coming back from injury, because third base is the only position that Cody Hosey can play. He's got to learn how to play first and second base, but that's not something we can fix right now. That's something that we can maybe worry about in the offseason. So we're going to need Cody Hosey to DH a lot, and we might need to throw him out at second base sometimes, even though he's never played there. It'd be a whole lot easier if Brian Ramos wanted to be cooperative, but clearly he does not. As for the division we're going to spin for today, we're going to do the AL Central. Keep in mind there will only be 4 spins in here because we're in the AL Central. Definitely not as top-heavy as last year with 3 95-win teams, but it's very competitive. The top 3 within a game and a half of each other. So we'll start with Cleveland. It's been a weird season for the Guardians because they won 99 games this year. They've definitely regressed, but they are in first place. So I decided to pick Tanner Bybee because he's been good, but worse than last year, and he landed on It's a Fluke. No change, so his ratings will be the exact same. The Tigers have been kind of disappointing, and their big trade acquisition, Hunter Brown, has been a big reason why. He lands on long-term star. His potential will go up by 5, and it can get a plus 10 with a good month. So this is a nice boost for Hunter Brown, looking to pick things up after a rough start to the year. And I'll add a stipulation. If he struggles here in June, his potential will go back down because he shouldn't be rewarded for not playing well. Jack Caglione, power up. Plus 8 boost to hitting stats, and he can keep the boost if he plays well. The Royals haven't gotten that much better than last year, but they've climbed up from 4 to 2nd. So I guess in that sense they've improved. And then Minnesota's been really disappointing. Ryan Jeffers, a big reason why. He lands on Mr. Versatile, at a new secondary position. I kind of think this makes sense for him because he's only hitting 195. He has not been very good offensively, but you're looking at a guy who is an offense-first catcher. So I think long-term, he probably plays first base, kind of like Wilson Contreras, who's already here. I think the idea is that Contreras plays out the rest of his contract. He will accept the player option because he has not been much better this year. And then after that, maybe Ryan Jeffers moves over to first base, so he has less defensive responsibility. It's not like he's a Gold Glover behind the plate. He's a pretty bad defensive catcher, and the Twins are paying him not for what he provides behind the plate, but because of his offense. So with that, we are now set to begin the month of June. Hopefully we can play better after a not-so-good month of May. And if we want any chance to make a run at this division, it starts right away. 7 straight road games, 3 in Cleveland against the first-place Guardians, 4 in Kansas City against the second-place Royals. So we're up 1-0 here in the bottom of the 8th. 6 scoreless innings for Noah Schultz. He has pitched fantastic, but the bullpen's got to hold on. As that one gets by Edgar Caro, both runners advance. A wild pitch on the low slider from Tony Santillan. And all of a sudden, runners in second and third here for Josh Naylor. Base hit gives him the lead, but he goes down looking on the fastball. Big punch out for Tony Santillan. That'll bring up David Fry. First pitch of the at-bat. Every day is Friday here in Cleveland. Rolls to the corner in right field. It is a 2-run double for David Fry. And the Guardians take the lead. It's 2-1. Another bullpen disaster class. Noah Schultz did all that just to not get the win. Penn Murphy will replace Tony Santillan. Murphy's been our best reliever this year. He's been a lot better in a low leverage role. On one hand, I want to keep him there because that's where he's been good. But on the other hand, we might need him in a high leverage spot. Ramon Laureano goes down on the sinker. Caro will make the throw. The Guardians scored 2, though, with a 2-run double by David Fry, and that would end up being the difference. Cleveland steals this one away from the White Sox, although I shouldn't really say steal. I mean, we had 2 hits in this game. The offense played like garbage. The only reason why we were in it was Noah Schultz, who pitched absolutely fantastic. And as I said, I felt like he had a really good month of May, and it's good to see that carrying over here into the start of June. It's unfortunate that the rest of this team let him down. We did get another hit in the 9th, so we ended up with 3 hits, 4 walks. Not good enough, though. 6 innings, 3 hits, 4 walks, 6 punch-outs for Noah Schultz. But the 2-run double in the 8th by Fry, one of just 4 hits for Cleveland, helps give them the win. Douglas Cato strained his hamstring. Honestly, I'm impressed it took him that long to get re-injured. He's been healthy since mid-April, and of course, he's been playing quite well. So we ended up taking 1 of 3 in Cleveland, and that brings us to this series against the Royals. Down by 1 in the 9th. Brian Ramos homered today. That's good. 2 on, nobody out. Big spot here for Braden Montgomery, who's had a pretty good game, but he puts it right on the ground. 6-4-3 double play. We do move the runner over to third, but obviously that's not what we were looking for. They are still going to take Giants franchise legend John Schreiber out of the game anyway, and they will replace him with their regular closer, Miguel Lozano, who they drafted in the 2025 draft, and he has quickly turned into a really good pitcher. 10 of 10 in save opportunities since becoming the closer, 2.43 ERA for the young righty. We do have a runner 90 feet away from home, but with 2 outs, we're going to need a base hit from Daniel Schneemann to keep the game alive. Behind in the count, 1-2 against Lozano. Ooh, good take. Fastball low. Could have ended the game if it was called strike 3. But Schneemann keeps the at-bat and thus the game alive. 2-2. Belts this one into the opposite field. Hit it pretty well, but it is caught. And the Kansas City Royals take the first against Cleveland by the final score of 5-4. We had a chance, but the double play by Braden Montgomery really killed us. Tony Santillan struggles again. It was good to see Brian Ramos homer, though. Romeo Sanabria goes deep for the first time this year. Only 5 hits. We did get 5 walks, but 5 hits is not a lot. Jagger Haynes had a good start, but Santillan really struggled. His ERA in late May was in the 1s. Like a week later, it's in the mid-5s. What has happened to him? So we're going to switch him and Penn Murphy, have Murphy pitch more in high-leverage spots. Later in this series against the Royals, actually the very next game, it's also 5-4 in favor of the Royals. Top of the 9th, 2 away. Brian Ramos grounds it over to first. It's bobbled, going to be close, flipped over to the pitcher, and it's in time. The Royals win back-to-back games by the final score of 5-4, and Kansas City wins the first 2 of 4 at Kauffman Stadium. Brian Ramos homered again. Back-to-back games with a long ball for Ramos after he only had 1 within the span of probably like 40 games. So at least he's playing better, I guess. German Marquez was fine. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't all that good either. Let's hop into this next game. We're down in the series 2-0, and we've got a good one. Tied at 6. Luis Robert has homered twice. Can he give us a third? And a big spot in this game leading off the 7th. So he fouls off a splitter. That was the pitch. Off speed, down the middle. 1-2, swing and a miss on the high slider. A nice punch out from Carlos Hernandez. We will then travel into the 9th. Emmanuel Rivera gave us the lead, but a 2-run homer by TJ Friedl has the Royals ahead 8-7. Jose Leclerc is in for the save. They've used Lozano 2 games in a row, so they're looking to switch it. As the count is 1-0 for Lou Bob, looking to light a spark for us, and again, that was the pitch. A slider down the middle, clearly mislocated it, but it's a grounder to second. Nico Horner makes the play, and the Royals would win this game 8-7. So this time, the offense did not let us down. 7 runs should be more than enough to win the game, but it was the pitching that struggled, and oddly enough, it was a Hagen Smith start. Usually, that's the spot in the rotation that we feel the most comfortable with. It was kind of a weird game for Smith because overall he pitched pretty well on a play-by-play basis. Now, he started off rough. He allowed 3 runs in the first, but he played a lot better after that. But then we kept him in for the 6th, and it backfired. They added 3 runs off of him. So he allowed 6 runs in 5 2/3 innings, but for most of the game, he didn't play that bad, although he did have an error to his name, which is not ideal. TJ Friedl, Dayron Blanco, and Jack Caglione all go deep. Ranger Suarez was not great, but the bullpen was. We ended up losing the last game 4-2. So in our most important 7 games of the year against Cleveland and Kansas City, we go 1-6. Not great. In this last game against the Royals, Braden Montgomery went deep. He drove in a pair. That's really the only positive I can give. Noah Schultz was pretty mediocre, 5 2/3 innings, allowing 4. I do want to look at our one win, though, against Cleveland. At least we took a game. Jonathan Cannon got the win. He pitched pretty well in this matchup against the Guardians. Edgar Quero, Daniel Schneemann, both going deep, while Cannon only allowed 1 earned run, although he did let up 9 hits and had 0 strikeouts in 5 innings. But run prevention is the most important thing, I guess. We have seen our win percentage tank, though. Tied for the 4th worst in baseball. How the mighty have fallen. We were in first place of the division halfway through April and over 500 at the end of the month. What happened? Well, I think the easiest answer would be that the Linsanity run for Akil Baddoo might be over. 324 is still damn good, but he's only hitting 171 over his last 10. Hopefully it's a cold stretch rather than him coming back down to earth. We're going to get through our next 3 sets. We've got the Pirates, who are 500. We will get to see Paul Skeens. 3 in Tampa Bay against the Rays, and then 3 at home against the Cardinals, leading us to a 3-game set against the Cincinnati Reds. So here in this first matchup against Pittsburgh, we are tied at 1 going into the 9th. Jonathan Cannon, 6 1/3 scoreless innings. He pitched really well. Bullpen's got to get us out of this jam. Ahmed Rosario on the ground. Montgomery, quick flip. Schneemann to first in time! Doubles him up! The White Sox turn 2, and sure enough, we would walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. Daniel Schneemann, the hero, with a 3-run homer for the win. Interestingly, we had an opportunity for the save going into the top half of the 9th, but Andy Rodriguez tied the game up. Daniel Schneemann had other plans with a walk-off home run to win the game for the White Sox. Corey Schultz is back healthy, and while Braden Montgomery has actually played fairly well through the first week of June, we are still going to send him down anyway. I want him to be able to play every day in AAA. I don't know if he's going to be able to get regular reps in the big leagues given his struggles. So this means we have more flexibility with the positions. Hosey can play DH. Corey Schultz is so versatile, we can throw him just about anywhere. We did lose the last 2 games against the Pirates. Paul Skeens pitched pretty well, of course, and then what a disaster. 12-3. Yikes. Bubba Chandler throws 7 solid innings. Luis Robert had 3 extra base hits, but that is the only positive, as Jagger Haynes does not get out of the first inning. Yikes. It's been kind of a weird year for Haynes. I know the numbers look bad. Obviously, he sucked against the Pirates, but otherwise, he has not played that bad this year. I feel like he's had some good games. Now against the Rays, 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Curtis Mead with 2 on, 2 away. Singles into center field. This will tie the game. Robert does not send a throw to the plate. We're knotted up at 2 apiece. And now Tampa Bay has a chance to take the lead against another one of Chicago's better relievers. The catcher, Tyler Stevenson, first pitch, grounded to short. Colson Montgomery makes the play, sends it over to first. So the Rays tie it. They get 1. But it does feel like they could have gotten a little bit more there. Let's go bottom 10. Akil Baddoo gives us the lead in the top half of the inning. And now the closers, Cionel Perez, will look for the save against Mauricio Dubon. Dribbler to second. Corey Schultz makes the play for out number 2. It does advance the runner, but they're probably going to need a base hit to bring him in here. Nathaniel Lowe, 0 for 4 today. The 0-2, swing and a miss on the slider. Cionel Perez holds the Rays off the board, and the White Sox take the first of 3 in Tampa against the Rays. A strong victory with a really good performance on the mound by Hagen Smith. Had an up-and-down game in his previous start against the Royals, but he is back. 6 scoreless for Smith, only allowing 5 base runners and 7 strikeouts. Sandy Alcantara was awesome as well, but the offense did not give him enough. Top 7 down by 1, but the bases are loaded. A big spot for Edgar Quero, who's already homered in this game. After winning the second game against the Rays, we are looking for the sweep. Quero hits this ball high and deep into center. Back at the track, at the wall, it's caught. I thought that had a chance to get out, but Mauricio Dubon is under it to get the grab, and the White Sox leave him loaded, and the Rays, sure enough, would win the game. Colson Montgomery would tie it, but Tyler Stevenson would win it. He hits a 2-run homer, finishing off a 4 for 4 game. Good to see Edgar Quero with another homer, his 11th of the year. Jonathan Cannon was pretty solid, although he was outclassed by Taj Bradley. Cody Hosey sprained his ACL. Not a tear, though, thank goodness. But obviously there's going to be a level of concern here given that he just came back from an 11-month rehab process off of a torn ACL. So we're going to be cautious. We're going to put him on the 15-day IL, and we are going to replace him with Brooks Baldwin. Although I don't really think it's going to be for long because Luis Angel Acuna is set to come off of the IL just about any day. So after taking 2 of 3 against the Rays, that brings us to this series at home against the Cardinals. Top of the 10th, tied at 5, pair of runners in scoring position, but 2 away for Mason Wynn. Liner above the glove of Corey Schultz. That should score a pair, and the Cardinals lead at 7-5. Mason Wynn looking to give the Cardinals the win as the inconsistencies, especially in high leverage spots, continue for Cionel Perez, and they're going to get even worse here. Ivan Herrera down the line and fair. Mason Wynn is quite fast. He will score pretty easily, and it's 8-5 in favor of the Cardinals. We're going to make a bullpen switch. It'll be Hayden Wesneski who comes in for the White Sox, 2.13 ERA. Maybe he could be the solution to the final spot in the rotation. We started him a couple games last year, and it was a disaster, but who knows? Maybe he's changed as he strikes out Nolan Gorman. Cardinals score 3, though, and they would end up winning it 8-5 as we did not score in the top half of the 10th. Cionel Perez cannot stay as the closer if he's going to continue to struggle in these big spots. In a vacuum, he hasn't been that bad this year, but we can't throw him out there with runners on base and have him continue to struggle. Brian Ramos homers. His power has gotten a lot better here in the month of June. Jagger Haynes was pretty good. The bullpen, a little more shaky. Here in Game 2 against the Cardinals, we're down 3-1 in the bottom of the 9th. But we have 2 runners on. The winning run is up, but Akil Baddoo puts it on the ground. Could be 2, throw to first, not in time! Good hustle by Akil Baddoo, showing off the wheels. We haven't talked about his speed much, but Baddoo is amongst the AL leaders in stolen bases. Luis Robert is available off the bench. We're going to bring him in here with 2 outs. Runners on the corners as the winning run for Chicago against Amir Garrett. The 0-1 pitch, grounded over to short. Wynn will flip it over to second, and the Cardinals hang on. Got a little dicey for them late, but they do win this game by the final score of 3-1. Another not-so-great performance from the offense. Tink Hence, 7 innings of 1-run ball. He has turned into a star for this Cardinals team, a former top prospect who has lived up to the hype and then some. 2.51 ERA on the year for him. We've got to get more production, though, out of the offense. Caro, Cato, and Sanabria all had multiple hits, but the rest of the team only had 1. That's unacceptable, especially considering German Marquez gave us a really good game. So we're looking to avoid the sweep. Down by 1 here in the bottom of the 9th. The tie-and run, Brooks Baldwin, who is pretty fast, is aboard at first with nobody out. We'll see if we can walk it off against Amir Garrett as Corey Schultz is up with 1 away. On the ground, blocked by the first baseman. Throw to first is in time. Baldwin makes it over to second, though. He's now in scoring position. That'll bring up Daniel Schneemann. First pitch of the AB. This one is hit well. Deep in the left center. Back at the track. At the wall. It is off the wall. The White Sox tie it up with an RBI double for Daniel Schneemann. Off the bat, I knew he hit that one well, but I didn't think it was going to have enough. I thought they were going to get to it. But Schneemann keeps it alive. Now he is the winning run for Douglas Cato, who says, "Good night, everybody!" Clobbers it into right center. Flip of the bat. This game is over. A walk-off home run for Douglas Cato to win it for the White Sox, avoiding the sweep here against St. Louis. A big-time 9th inning as Schneemann brings home the tie-and run, and Douglas Cato finishes the game in style. A walk-off winner for the youngster, Douglas Cato. His 10th home run of the year, and certainly his most important. It's been fun seeing him playing healthy baseball because when he's on the field, he is a dynamic player. The problem is, he's not on the field enough. But a good way to end the series here with an exciting 9th inning and an awesome finish. Schneemann and Cato, the heroes against the Cardinals. Luke and Baker was their entire offense today, homered twice. Didn't get a whole lot else from the lineup, although the pitching was really good. Andre Palante had a good start. The bullpen was good until the ninth. Hagen Smith, meanwhile, 6 innings, 2 earned. He allowed the 2 homers, but that was it. He was very good. We went through most of these games, but we did not get to discuss our 3-0 win. Noah Schultz continuing his hot streak. 8 scoreless innings. His ERA is down to 3.5. Luis Robert drove in all 3 for us in the win. I know we just pitched with Noah Schultz in the last episode, but with how well he's performed as of recent, I feel like we got to use him. And look who's on the mound for Cincinnati. Bailey Falter. Not to mention, Luisangel Acuna is coming off the injured list. So Brooks Baldwin will be sent back down to AAA. Although I give him credit, he has more hits than he did last year. Granted, he had 0 last year, but that's not the point. Game 1 of 3 at home against the Redlegs, who have been pretty solid this year, 37 and 34. The big story for us is the performance of Noah Schultz, who's been really good as of recent. The starting rotation over the last 2 series has been very up and down. First in ERA, but we're 25th in WHIP. Tied for 14th in strikeouts. Dead last in walks. They're giving us good innings, though, tied for 10th. So I don't really know what to make of all of that because, well, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Here's a look at both lineups, and here's a look at the surging Noah Schultz. The young lefty looks like he has firmly figured it out. It took him some time at the big league level, certainly longer than Hagen Smith, but he's been great since the start of May. A torrential downpour here in Chicago as Kyle Isbell draws a walk. I'm curious if it's going to be harder for either pitcher to really grip the ball given how rainy it is. On the ground, Montgomery, Acuna over to first in time. Double play off the bat of Ryan O'Hearn as the White Sox turn 2. Here comes Aura, man. It's Ellie De La Cruz. Hits this one over to short. Going to be a tough play. Throw to first. Not in time. Overall, that was a pretty good job by Colson Montgomery to field it quickly, get the ball out quickly because, well, he knows how fast Ellie is. Still beats out the throw anyway. Arguably the fastest man in baseball, topping out at 19 miles an hour. Took him 4.2 seconds to get from the batter's box over to first base. Inning stays alive. Matt McClain, liner to second. It is caught by Luisangel Acuna. And Noah Schultz is able to get out of the first. Certainly was not his best frame, but far from his worst either. We'll take a look at Bailey Falter, who's been a great addition for the Reds. In terms of value, they have absolutely won this trade, especially considering Tony Santillana has been kind of a mess here in June. 2.59 ERA. He started the year as a starter-reliever hybrid, but with injuries and Seth Lugo regressing, they've needed him as a starter, and he has excelled. Nice snag there at third base by Andy Ibanez, former Tiger teammate of Akil Baddoo, who had the line out there. We'll go into the second. Ryan Mountcastle hitting .370 over his last 28 games. You do not want to pitch to him right now. Sure enough, he draws a walk. Freddie Fermin now up for the Reds. Count is even 1-1. That one gets by the glove of Ramos for a single into left field. A good start to the inning for Cincinnati as they've got 2 on with nobody out. That'll bring up Andy Ibanez, who hits lefties well. This one is singled into right. Will they look to score the run? Yes, they're going to go for it. Throw to the plate from Baddoo is not in time. Mountcastle scores, and the Reds strike first. They lead it 1-0 off the bat of Andy Ibanez. Certainly don't want this inning to get ugly as Stuart Fairchild singles into center. That'll score Freddie Fermin likely. Throw to the plate, not in time. And it's 2-0 Reds. Still with 2 on and still with nobody out. This is trending downhill fast for Noah Schultz. Back to the top of the order. 1 away for Kyle Isbell. This one is chopped on the ground. Montgomery, Acuna over to first. Double play, inning over. We're lucky that the lead only got to 2 there. The Reds got their first 4 base runners aboard, and then we were able to hunker down and get things going. Bottom second, Brian Ramos goes down looking on the fastball. He's hit for better power in June, but he's still only hitting .230. Colson Montgomery now skies this one a mile into the air. Kind of deep. This one's actually got quite a bit of carry into center. It is caught by Kyle Isbell. The rain has started to get really bad. Bad enough for not just a rain delay, but a 90-minute delay. And now we've got to make a decision in terms of the pitching. I think it makes the most sense to take Noah Schultz out of the game. It's not like he's played all that well today so far to begin with, but I also want to be cautious with him. He's a premium asset for us. The last thing we need to do is throw him out there when his arm is not loose, and he's already not pitching well in this game to begin with. Hayden Wesneski looks to retire the side. He cannot just yet, as Matt McLain singles into center with 2 away. We're hoping Wesneski can give us around 3 or so innings to give us the 5 to 6 innings that we would have hoped for out of Noah Schultz going into the day to begin with. Runner goes. Caro was not expecting it, and McLain is in scoring position. A big spot for the red-hot Ryan Mountcastle, who walked and scored his first time up. Behind 1-2, swinging a miss on the slurve. Wesneski gets us through 3 as it remains 2-0. No base runners so far for Chicago. Looking to change that here, and we will. Belts it into the gap, likely for extra bases from Emmanuel Rivera. 114 exit velo as he is into second with a leadoff double. So Rivera's in scoring position to start the inning as that'll bring up Romeo Sanabria. Belts this one up the middle into center for a hit. That should score Rivera, and it looks like it will. It's 2-1. What an impressive swing by Romeo Sanabria. That pitch was low. It was out of the zone and had a lot of movement. Can't really fault Bailey Falter there. He placed that one perfectly, but it doesn't matter. Sanabria hits that one beautifully. Cato on the ground could be 2, and it is. Double play. The Reds do allow 1, though. They've made a very different decision than us in terms of the pitching, keeping Falter in. And I get it in their perspective. He's a veteran, having a good year, looking good today. So I can see why they made that choice, although his third inning was a lot worse than the first 2. Wesneski, meanwhile, is looking quite good. Strikeout to start the inning. Now against Fairchild, 2-2. Strikeout to end the inning on the circle change. Hayden Wesneski has been very good through 2 frames as it remains 2-1, and we will move into the bottom of the 4th. We'll see if the White Sox can have another productive offensive inning after they looked pretty good in the 3rd against the former White Sox, Bailey Falter. Luis Robert with 1 away, launches it into the gap. That'll go for extra bases. Rounding first, into second with a double. And we've got a runner in scoring position with 1 away. And the Reds are going to make a switch. They're going to take Bailey Falter out here and replace him with Seth Lugo. This is not so much because of performance, although him allowing a few hard-hit balls over the last few innings does not help his case. But that, combined with the rain delay, is why they're making the switch over to Seth Lugo. So with 1 away, Brian Ramos is up over to second, deflected by McLain. Throw to first, not in time. An infield single for Brian Ramos. And there are now runners on the corners with 1 away. What an opportunity for the middle of this order. And a guy such as Edgar Caro, who's been pretty solid here in the month of June, sends this one into the opposite field. This ball will be caught. Should be enough room, though, for Lou Bob to score off the tag. He is safe with no problem. And the White Sox tie it at 2. So a pretty productive at-bat for Edgar Caro as this game is now knotted up. That'll bring up Colson Montgomery. Certainly helps him that he's now facing off against a righty instead of the lefty Falter. But he goes down on the high fastball anyway. Through the first month of the year, Colson was hitting like 300 against lefties, and I felt like he had kind of turned a corner there. Since then, he's been horrible against lefties. His average on the year is back in the 100s in that category. Top 5, Blake Dunn launches this ball into left center. Dunn's got some wheels, rounding first, looking for second, safe with a leadoff double. And the Reds get a runner in scoring position to open up the inning with the top portion of the order due up and a great chance to regain the lead. That starts with Kyle Isbell. Count is even 2-2 for the talented center fielder. Runner goes for third. Caro, again, did not see it coming, and the throw is not in time. Kyle Teal is certainly better defensively compared to Caro, but again, as I talked about at the beginning of the episode, both guys certainly have their strengths and weaknesses. Ryan O'Hearn into right. It is caught by Baду. Dunn will look to score. He is safe despite a pretty good throw. Sack fly for O'Hearn, and the Reds are back ahead as it is now 3-2. That'll bring up Ellie De La Cruz. Infield single earlier in the game. Count is even 1-1. And this one is hit well. Deep into right center field, and that ball is gone. 423 feet for Elly De La Ding Dong. His 16th of the year, 112 off the bat. Cincinnati up by 2. Hayden Wesneski was pitching well early, and then things have kind of gotten away here in the 5th. We're going to take him out after allowing the homer by Elly De La Cruz, and he will be replaced by Enoli Paredes, who's been okay since being called up from AAA. McClain over to first. Sanabria makes the play. That'll end the 5th. Reds regain the lead. They add 2 with a sacrifice fly and a solo shot for Elly De La Cruz. Luis Angel Acuna, his first game in a month and a half since April 30th. Boy, is it good to see him back. He played really well in the 10 or 11 games before he got injured. Grounds it over to second, though. He's 0 for 2 to start. 1-2-3 inning for Seth Lugo, and it remains 4-2 as we will move into the 6th. Ryan Mountcastle up for the Reds against Paredes. Goes down looking on the fastball. Nice pitch to fool him low and inside. Now against the catcher, Freddie Fermin. Count is even 2-2, and he goes down on the sinker. Paredes has pitched quite well since coming into the game. We will travel into the bottom of the 6th. Here is Douglas Cato. Count is even 2-2. He's been quiet today, and he goes down on the high outside fastball. Good pitch there by Seth Lugo, who's been excellent since coming into the game. Luis Robert is now up. He's ahead in the count, 2-1. With 2 gone, this one is belted over to first, caught on the liner by Ryan Mountcastle. Still 4-2. We move into the 7th. The former Cincinnati Red, Tony Santillan, is in for the White Sox. I don't know what to make of this season because I get the 5 ERA is not good. But again, you got to keep in mind, for most of the year he was balling. His ERA 3 weeks ago started with the number 1. But he's just kind of forgotten how to pitch. Hopefully he can look better against his former team, although that is not exactly a ringing endorsement. Stuart Fairchild draws a walk. Blake Dunn will join him. So back-to-back walks to start for Tony Santillan. 2 on, nobody out. And a big spot here for Kyle Isbell. This one is on the ground. Could be 2. Sanabria, Montgomery. Over to Santillan. 3-6-1. Doubles him up. I still don't really trust Tony Santillan to get this last out, so we're going to make a switch anyway. And we are going to roll with Kyle Nelson. Especially because if the Reds do get another base runner, Elly De La Cruz is next. He's a lot better against righties. Ryan O'Hearn, who's up, is also a lot better against righties. And he goes down on the slider. Nelson, who's been great since coming up from AAA, gets the punch out, and we will go into the bottom of the 7th, where Brandon Williamson comes in for the Reds with an interesting stat display as well. Neither starter going deep into this game because of the rain delay. 3-1. Edgar Caro belts this one high and pretty deep into right center field. Back at the track, at the wall. It is gone! You can put that one on the board. Yes, we are within 1. Edgar Caro. The power surge continues for the rookie. His 12th of the year, going 395 feet. He really didn't hit that ball all that hard. Exit velo under 100, but it went so far in the air with a launch angle at 36 degrees. Really good swing there by Caro. I continue to be impressed with the home run power, which, if you remember, was not there in the minors last year. He had 4 homers in 3.5 healthy months in AAA, but in, basically 4 months of big league action, not even, he has 17 major league dingers. And at the top of the 8th, Elly De La Cruz goes down on the high slider. Ryan Mountcastle now up for Cincinnati. We decided to keep Nelson in anyway, even with McClain and Mountcastle up, and that decision pays off as he grounds out to second. Acuna makes the play. Kyle Nelson has been a stud since we brought him up from AAA. His ERA starts with the number 0. That's pretty good. Bottom of the 8th, only down by 1 with the homer earlier by Edgar Caro. Sam Moll is in for the Reds. He's been pretty good this year, 2.9 ERA. Back into the bullpen looking to shut the door for the Reds. Luis Angel Acuna goes down on the sinker. Not much going well for him offensively, 0 for 3, but more than anything, it's good to have him out there. Douglas Cato with a swing and a drive. Flips the bat. That baby is gone. 407 into left. We're tied at 4. Back-to-back home run games for Douglas Cato. Flips the bat in 2 consecutive games. Home run number 11 on the year. Unlike the homer by Caro, that one was a no-doubter. What I've noticed with Douglas Cato is that he seems to have a few stretches where he'll go through 2 or 3 games where he's on fire, which if you were to tell me that last year, that'd be a big surprise. I didn't know if he could play back-to-back days, but it seems like he's at his best when he does that. Akil Baddoo goes down on the sweeper. That'll end the 8th. We've got a good one here in the south side. Homer in the 7th by Caro, homer in the 8th by Cato, and this game is tied. Penn Murphy, our best reliever, is into the 9th. This is like the perfect spot for him because it's not necessarily high leverage, but it's still a big spot in this game as he gets Freddie Fermin on the slider for out number 1. Andy Ibanez now up for the Reds. Chases the sweeper. What a pitch by Penn Murphy. We'll see if he can strike out the side and bring us into the bottom of the 9th. Pinch hitter Will Benson is into the game. He hits righties quite well. Pops this one high in the air, kind of deep into left. Actually, it's going to make it all the way to the warning track, where Cato will come down with it. 1, 2, 3 for Penn Murphy. 3, 4, 5 hitters due up for the White Sox. Robert, Ramos, and the red-hot Edgar Caro. Out of the bullpen for Cincinnati to look to push this game into extras is Julian Aguilar. 3.14 ERA and just over 14 innings for the talented young righty, who had a great year in the minors last year, got a nice ratings boost, taking advantage with some big league reps. Brian Ramos singles into right, and with that, the White Sox have their base runner. Ramos is certainly fast enough to where we're not going to have to bring in a pinch runner. He's not really a threat to steal, though, despite his speed. Edgar Caro has driven in runs in each of his last 2 at-bats. Can he do it again? Caro hits this ball well into center, over the glove of Isbell. Ramos on his high horse, rounding third, headed home, throw to the plate, not in time. A walk-off winner in back-to-back games for the White Sox. Edgar Caro is the hero with a walk-off double, driving in 3 of our 5 runs today to help the White Sox win this game 5-4. Back-to-back walk-offs. It was Cato against the Cardinals, Caro against the Reds. These 2 guys seem to be the most clutch players on the roster, which doesn't say a whole lot. Nobody else here is clutch. But those 2 guys are the biggest reasons why we won this game today. We were down 4-2 in the 7th. Caro homers were within 1. Cato homers were tied. Caro with the double to finish off the job. Caro's final slash line, 2 for 3. Homer, double, sac, fly, scored and drove in 3. He was fantastic in this game. Bailey Falter kind of got screwed by the rain delay. He was pitching really well before the delay. Although the bullpen wasn't bad for the Reds. We only had 8 hits and no walks. But Caro and Cato made plays when we needed to. Brian Ramos, the winning run, got to give him credit as well. Noah Schultz struggled before we prematurely removed him because of the rain delay. Hayden Wisniewski was pretty good other than the 5th, and then the rest of the bullpen did not allow a base hit. They were awesome. So we win the first game here against the Reds, 30-44 off of an Edgar Caro masterclass. We'll get through the last 2 games against the Reds, 3 at Fenway, and then a 6-game homestand against the Astros and the Tigers. So here against Cincinnati, tied at 3 into the top of the 10th. We're not able to walk it off for a 3rd straight game, but we'll see if we can win it. Paredes looking for the double play. He gets it! And the Reds do not score in the top half of the 10th. Enoli Paredes showing off the leather. We would not score in the 10th. Ryan O'Hearn would drive in a run in the top half of the 11th, however. 4-3. Luis Angel Acuna with 91 speed is at second base, though. Douglas Cato is available off the bench, and as I mentioned earlier, he's one of the most clutch players on the roster. We're going to bring him in as a pinch hitter. Up the middle, nice scoop by Ian Jaibo for the 2nd out of the inning. I guess Enoli Paredes is not the only pitcher who's got the leather. Akil Baddoo only 1 for 9 in this series. He did homer earlier tonight. Looking for another. That is not a homer, though. Liner over to 3rd. It is caught, and the Reds win this game by the final score of 4-3. Pretty inexcusable to not score in either the 10th or the 11th when you have a runner in scoring position in both innings and do not drive him in. That's not great. It's been an up-and-down season for Chase Burns, former number 2 overall pick, drafted a few spots ahead of our very own Hagen Smith, but he pitched well today, got the win. 3 hits for Luis Robert, 3 hits for Edgar Quero, 2 hits for Luis Angel Acuna, and 3 hits for literally everybody else. Jonathan Cannon pitched pretty well. Honestly, I feel like this game isn't really on the pitching. We just relied on the star power too much offensively. Douglas Cato's shoulder pull, he'll be out for a week or two. We're going to go into AAA and bring up Claudio Rubio. He will be the first player at our 2026 draft to make his big league debut. 4th rounder hailing from Cuba and Coastal Carolina University. He's been kind of up and down in AAA over his last 10. He's hitting for good contact, but not good power. But he's hit for good power throughout the year. Switch hitter who's a lot better against righties. He'll be making his debut here against Boston. He's going to play against the lefty, Nestor Cortes Jr., so it's not a great matchup for him. But I want to train him to also be effective against lefties, especially given that he is a switch hitter. It should be an advantage for him. Higgins Smith, speaking of lefties, will get the start here for the White Sox. If we take a look at both lineups, Rubio playing left field, batting in the 8-hole. As for Nestor Cortes, who of course pitched for the defending champion Milwaukee Brewers last year, 3.7 ERA, 1.27 whip. I wouldn't say he's been good, but certainly has not been bad. Edgar Quero, 2-run homer, continuing to just crush the baseball. He's been a superstar over the last week. And overall through June has been one of our better players. An all-star spot is a very realistic scenario for him. Rubio, meanwhile, swings at the first pitch. Wants to get the jitters out, but it is a grounder to third. Rafael Devers makes the play. The Red Sox would tie it prior to his next at-bat. Roman Anthony RBI single. Alex Bregman, who might be the best player on the planet this year, with a solo shot off of Higgins Smith. Still against Cortes, up the middle. Nice scoop. Could be 2. Rubio's fast, but not fast enough. 1-6-3 double play as Claudio Rubio starts his big league debut 0 for 2. We will move into the 7th. The White Sox up 5-3. Luis Angel Acuna sac fly. Luis Robert 2-run shot. Christian Campbell would cut into the lead a little bit. And it's a clutch opportunity for Rubio, who's not a great clutch hitter yet. But he belts this one into left. First career base knock for Claudio Rubio. It will score a run, and that'll make it 6-3. A cool moment here for Rubio, the former Chanticleer. A player who was not really on a lot of teams' radars. We discovered him, we drafted him, and, well, obviously he has become big league ready pretty quick. The upside is sort of limited, but I do like his skill set. It's now 9-4, 2-run double for Acuna. Luis Robert brings in a run. Both of those guys have 3 RBIs today. Rubio, meanwhile, broken bat. Castro behind the back will not get the double play. I've got to see that one again. There's no way Willie Castro just went behind the back. Let's look at the replay, because if he did, that would have been absolutely sick. Oh my goodness, he did! To perfection! Holy aura! Doesn't matter, though. The White Sox would add another run. I think that was Nick Maton who drove it in, as we win this game 10-4. A very successful debut for Claudio Rubio in the sense that the team raked. Edgar Quero, 3 for 4, homer, double, drove in 2, scored 3 times. He is an animal. Luis Robert, 4 for 5, had a homer, drove in 3. Luis Angel Acuna also drives in 3, while Rubio goes 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Higgins Smith was pretty solid. He really didn't need to be, though. His offense was friggin' awesome. So Cody Hosey has recovered from his knee injury. He's off the IL, and it feels like the team is really starting to get healthy. Drew Thorpe is going to be off the IL soon. Kyle Teal is set to return soon. With Hosey back, though, we're going to have to send somebody down, and that is going to be Corey Julks. His versatility is very nice, but that's the only thing he can provide because his offense has been just awful. His defense has also been awful. Negative 1.2 WAR and under 100 at bats. He's been terrible. He needs to go down through the minor leagues and figure some things out. So Cody Hosey is now officially healthy, and Kyle Teal is now off the injured list. He's not healthy yet. He needs another week or so to recover, but this means we're getting close to his return, which is very exciting given how well he played early in the year. Although, I will say, in his place, Edgar Quero has been quite good, especially here in the month of June. The OPS has climbed all the way up to 760. Average is now at 244, WAR above 2. Over his last 10, he's hitting 341 with an OPS pretty much at 1,000. So with Teal back on the roster, we're going to send down Romeo Sanabria. He's played really well, to his credit. But I would rather him getting everyday reps in AAA than playing every fifth day in the big leagues. I think this is in his best interest. Just 2 days later, Drew Thorpe is off the injured list. Jagger Haynes got dinged up in his most recent start, and he's going to go down to AAA. I really don't think Haynes played that badly, though, minus the really bad game against the Pirates. But Jonathan Cannon has been overall pretty good for the most part, so I don't have anybody else I would send down. After winning 2 of 3 against the Astros, we go into this series against the Tigers. 5-4, bottom 10. Emmanuel Rivera's at second. Cody Hosey 2 for 4 up at the plate for Chicago. He lines it over to first. What a catch! Spencer Torkelson wins it for Detroit. If that ball drops, Rivera probably scores. But Torkelson is the hero. He had a good game offensively as well. 2 for 4 home run. Drove in a pair to win the game for the Tigers. They out-hit us 13-7. That was certainly a big difference as well. Akil Baddoo had a good game. He drove in 3 runs. Hagen Smith was, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. Nick Maton fractured wrist. He'll be out for a month or 2. Kyle Teel is now healthy, and Douglas Cato is off the injured list. So he will take over Maton's spot on the roster. We take 1 of 3 against Detroit, but overall we've played pretty well as of recent. Now, we had some bad games in this stretch. We lost 6-0 against the Red Sox, despite a pretty good game from German Marquez. We won the last game, though, 3-0. The offense gave us some good plays. Schneemann with a 2-run shot. The star of the show, though, was Noah Schultz throwing 7 scoreless, but that was not the only great start from him, as you'll see. Against the Astros, 10-4 win. A lot of errors in this game. I think there was 5. Colson Montgomery drove in 2, but he also had 2 errors. Caro drove in 2 as well. He did not have any errors, though, because he's a stud. Jonathan Cannon pitching well in the win. We also beat Houston 7-1. A really good offensive series here against the Astros. Montgomery goes deep. He drives in 2. Caro drives in 2. Schneemann brings home 2. 9-2 against Detroit. The offense hit the ball really well. 13 hits, 4 walks, 9 runs. Monasterio's first home run of the year. Maton goes deep as well. Noah Schultz, meanwhile, 8 innings, 2 earned runs. His ERA is down to 3.28. What I find interesting, though, is that his advanced numbers pretty much identical to last year. So this kind of tells me that he's always been pretty good, but run prevention was inconsistent with him, and he's figured it out a little bit. Over his last 10, 2.38 ERA, 1.09 whip. We've seen the flashes with him in the past, but now he's really starting to turn into one of the better young lefties in all of baseball. So a promising end to the month. Before we wrap things up, though, we've got some scouting to talk about. Easily the most important draft pick of the series so far, as we're picking second in the first round. We finally have a super high pick, and this class is really strong at the top. We're going to be getting a good prospect at number 2. I would say there's probably 5 players who I would consider at that spot, including a couple of pitchers. And I know it's against my philosophy to pick pitchers early, but I want to get the very best player on the board. And if that's a pitcher, so be it. There's a lot of guys projected to go in the first round, but I think there's 2 who I would look at with the number 2 overall pick, and some guys who I would certainly consider after that in the second round and beyond. So we'll start here in the first round. Tommy Black is the highest projected pitcher in this class. He's ranked 4th by MLB Pipeline, and our scouts have him at 3rd. They certainly think he's good enough to warrant consideration at number 2 overall. 19 years old. We've gotten to watch him with the Team USA program, where he's gotten better and better year in and year out. He's really solid. He's a jack of all trades without many major weaknesses. He has 4 pitches, including a fastball that tops at 96 and a sweeper that goes as fast as 89. So he's got a very interesting mix of pitches, and the skill set has no holes in it. I think you're looking at a big league starter with the upside to be a whole lot more than that, and certainly worthy of being the first pitcher off the board. I don't know if he has the highest ceiling amongst the pitchers, though. The other arm I would consider number 2 is actually Salvador Gonzalez, who is the 15th ranked prospect in the draft. Our scouts have him at number 6. So this would certainly be seen as a reach. It would help us save a lot of bonus money, though, that we could use for the other rounds throughout the draft. Gonzalez is far less of a sure thing than Tommy Black, but the upside is really exciting. 18 years old, 6'3", 230. This is a big power pitcher who looks to overpower you with his velo. He throws harder than just about anybody in this class. But if you look at his per nines, walks per nine is by far his best. Hits per nine is second. That's a big win for me. 5-pitch mix, fastball at 98, cutter at 99, sweeper at 91. He has got quite the allotment of pitches. So even though he's a little bit worse right off the bat than Tommy Black, if you look at how hard he throws, the combination of pitches he has, and his ability to keep pitches in the strike zone, I mean, if he ends up hitting, I think you're looking at a multi-time perennial all-star. I think he could be that good. Number 2 overall may seem early to some, but I disagree strongly. I am all in on the upside of Salvador Gonzalez. Behind him, Rich Bartley, projected top 5 pick. Scouts don't really see it with him. Randall Ferguson, drafted in the second round last year. He decided to end up going back to school, a decision that paid off, as he's now probably going to go in the first round. Phil Dobbs, another first-round guy. Our scouts don't really see it. William Rivero is an interesting one because he's a good prospect, but he's not good enough to go number 2. And he's not going to make it to number 41, which is kind of unfortunate. Trumandella is in the same range. He's a good prospect who I like a lot, but we're just not going to pick him because we're not in his range really at all. Elvis Rincon as well. Walter Yamaguchi, Bartolo Avalos. These are good players who we're just not going to sniff. I think Ernesto Mateo is probably the first guy who could make it to 41, but even that feels like a pipe dream. Once you get into the 30s, though, these are the guys to watch out for the second round. DeAndre Kutch, Lauren Wallace, Julio Duarte, Derek Cloven, Henry Ramirez, Armando Mendez. I would like to think one or two of those guys make it to number 41. The easiest argument against picking a pitcher in the first round is that you'd think one of these guys falls to the second round. The two I like the most are Cloven and then Armando Mendez. We'll start with Cloven, a 21-year-old lefty from Old Dominion. Has had a phenomenal season this year for the Monarchs. 6 foot, 207 pounds, 4-pitch mix, fastball that tops at 98. He keeps balls in the ballpark. He doesn't throw walks. He has good control, good velocity. I really like his overall skill set. I struggle to find a major red flag with him, and I would be thrilled with the idea of picking him at number 41. But he's not the only pitcher who we like in that range, because there's also Armando Mendez, 21-year-old from the Dominican Republic, a guy who can go deep into games. But despite that, he still throws really hard. Hits per nine, probably his best per nine attribute, but he also does not have many major weaknesses. I like these well-rounded pitchers who are coming in fairly polished immediately and are guys who could contribute for us in the rotation sooner than later. Two-seam fastball might be his best pitch, tops at 98. Changeup and curveball, both very solid for him as well. 6'4", 211, good size. I would hope one of these pitchers from the 30 to 40 range fall to number 41. If not, there are a couple backup options with Cedric Keneally and Herbert Daniels, both of whom I think are good enough prospects. And then if you're looking for some deep sleepers, Jason Phillips, a guy who's probably going to be pretty solid right away. The upside is limited. You're not looking at an all-star, but he could be good in the future. Another guy who I would keep my eye on projected later is Jeff Argue, 18-year-old high school lefty. He's got a ways to go, but a pretty high ceiling for probably the third round. I've done a lot more work on the relievers this year than the past. I wouldn't mind drafting a good reliever or two, a guy who can contribute pretty early on. Not a great class in terms of the actual relievers, though. Nobody in the top 90 in terms of talent, but as we look at the closers, it's a little bit different. There are some good ones. Ezra Valenzuela looks like a stud. I'm not going to bother scouting him because obviously we're not going to pick him at number 2, and he is not going to make it to number 41. You know who could make it to 41? Lefty Antoine Luther from Stanford. High potential, but he should be a major league contributor pretty much immediately. If we draft him, this is a guy who I would expect is in our bullpen to start next year. I think he's that good. Hits per 9, awesome. Strikes per 9, awesome. Production with the Cardinal, very good. He's been one of the best closers in college baseball. The one thing with him is that he only has 3 pitches and his walks per 9 is his weakest attribute. I definitely don't love that. He's not necessarily a natural fit in terms of what I look for with my pitching. But if he's the best player on the board, I'm not going to say no. I think he's a guy who could be a valuable piece for us right away. We haven't really done a lot of work on the catchers throughout this series. In the past, it was because we had 2 good catching prospects. Now it's because we have 2 good catchers, period. I think we only scouted 1, Kevin Seymour, and he didn't look all that good. First base, Avi Hull. I don't think he's going to make it to the second round, but a college-ready bat who I would certainly consider at number 41. Jesse Romero is an interesting one. I want to dive into this young man's tape. Coming from Indiana University, he has been one of the best hitters in college baseball this year. Very limited ceiling, though. This is the type of guy who could easily crack a big league lineup and be productive next year. The problem is he's kind of already peaked in terms of what he's going to be. Kind of like Douglas Cato and Claudio Rubio in a way, but those guys were picked late. Romero would probably have to be a second-round pick, so it would be an investment, but maybe a worthwhile one. At second base, Danny Slater, I'm going to scout him. I think this week he's a guy who I want more information on. Projected at number 41. We have picked 41, so it makes sense. And at third base, this is where things start to get fun. So as I mentioned, there's 5 guys I'm thinking about at number 2. We talked about the 2 pitchers, but what about the 3 position players? That starts with Barney Wagner, 21 years old, born in the Netherlands, plays at the University of Texas. This guy is really, really good. He would be a slam dunk pick, in my opinion, at number 2 overall. Barney has been the best player in college baseball this year. He's a 10-year Major League veteran getting at bats against college pitching. Elite contact against both righties and lefties, good plate vision, great plate discipline. He fits our team so well because we've been prioritizing guys who hit for good contact, good average, and guys who draw a lot of walks, get on base. That's Barney Wagner's game to a T. I think given his 6'3", 215-pound frame, there's a lot of long-term power upside, and with his ability to play third base and shortstop, I think you're looking at a pretty good defensive player. There's no weaknesses with his game, and he's going to be ready to go, I would say, at some point next year. He fits our team perfectly, and I think he's going to be in the top half of the Major League lineup for a decade. Down the board, Patrick Goodson, we scouted him. Our scouts don't seem to be all that high on him. A player who I am intrigued by, though, is Sam Sheehan, another Stanford guy. He's tiny, 5'7", 163, but he's a fun, feisty player. Switch hitter, really fast, solid all-around offense. I think he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he has really high potential and could be a good player down the line. He can play multiple spots in the infield as well. Certainly not anywhere near as good right away, though, as Barney Wagner, who, of the guys we would consider at number 2, I think is the most likely to give us an early impact as soon as next year. The shortstop class on paper doesn't look good, but I actually kind of like it. Jermaine Riley, I think we're going to scout this week. Mason Foster, I like quite a bit. Michael Bryant, our scouts don't like him, but I think he's a good prospect. And then in the outfield, Ross Medeiros, projected number 2 overall to us. Our scouts are not a fan of him. We did a ton of work on him. He's not a bad prospect. I think that 30 ranking is a little bit unfair because I think he's going to be good, but probably not good enough to go number 2. You know who is good enough? This young man, 18-year-old high school outfielder Antoine Sonnenberg. If you're looking for pure upside, I think he has the highest ceiling in this class. In terms of comparing him and Barney Wagner, potential grade, very similar. Overall range, very similar. But Sonnenberg is 3 years younger. Between him and Wagner, I think Wagner is still going to be more ready to go because he's a better contact hitter, better plate skills, better plate discipline. Sonnenberg, I think, gives you more power and speed. I think he's a little bit more athletic. That's where the long-term upside comes from, and that's why I think he is the highest ceiling in the class. If we're looking for a guy who's going to contribute as soon as next year, Barney Wagner is probably the choice. But if we're looking to take a swing for the fences, look to draft a guy who has superstar upside, Antoine Sonnenberg, I think, would probably be the choice in that scenario. Down the board, Richie Tackett's a guy who I think is going to be pretty good right away. Jake Bowser, we did a lot of work on. He does not look that good. Daryl McCauley, high upside. We're going to scout him, I believe, either this week or next week. And then as we move into center, the fifth and final player we're really going to look at, number 1, is Hugh Sheely, who is a 19-year-old. I don't think he's as good right away as either Wagner or Sonnenberg. Potential is around even. I do find it interesting that our scouts have him ahead of both of those guys, though. So why is that? I think in terms of positional value, you have to factor that in. He has excellent range in center field. Probably going to provide more defensive value than both Wagner and Sonnenberg, even though I think offensively he's a ways apart, both of them. Doesn't have the power upside that Sonnenberg does. Isn't the contact hitter that Barney Wagner is. But I think his skill set might be the most well-rounded of the group, and he is being mocked generally number 1 overall to the Washington Nationals. At right field, Carlos Franco, high floor player, probably a good choice more in the second round rather than number 2. I do want to look at Mark Rosas, though. We've done some work on him late. I don't think he's good enough to go number 2, but I do like the skill set. Very advanced contact hitter for a high school kid. Sweet lefty swing, and at 6'3", 235, he's going to really get some strength and really turn into a good power hitter, I think. I think he's a tier below guys like Hugh Shieldy, Barney Wagner, and Antoine Sonnenberg in terms of position players, but I do like him quite a bit. And then in terms of position players who we discovered, there is a lot of them. Jim McFadden, the highest ranked of the group. We're going to scout him before we get to the draft. Jake Randall, we've already scouted quite a bit. He's got the funky mustache. Norman Muller, really high ceiling. I think the floor is fairly solid as well. Adrian Rivas, high ceiling, certainly a lower floor. Tom Min, solid option at second base. Chris Guerra, very high ceiling, but he's a little raw at 20 years old. We're going to scout Slater, McCauley, and Luther this week, and then we've got one more week after that. Who do you guys think we should pick number 2 overall? Should we look at one of the pitchers, such as Tommy Black or Salvador Gonzalez? Or should we go for a position player like Hugh Shieldy, Barney Wagner, or Antoine Sonnenberg? Overall, I feel like it was a pretty successful month of June. The team was up and down, but we've played well as of recent. Noah Schultz has been looking good. Edgar Caro, meanwhile, he is in first place for the All-Star vote at catcher in the American League. He's still going to have to play well over the next couple of weeks, but if he does, he's going to be an All-Star starter as a rookie. How cool is that? And well-deserved, given how well he has played as of recent. We're, of course, going to go through the draft, the All-Star festivities, and make it up to the trade deadline in the next episode, so we will have a lot to go through for the month of July. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.